Okay. So, we just have to be mindful as we think about the resources that we're using to make sure that they are peer reviewed. But it has been difficult to find ones on the library sites. And, I did find a couple, but I couldn't find anything that really told me what I was looking for in regards to what opioids are, even a definition, because, these research reports and articles, they're so highfalutin, if you will, they're not putting in the basic information. And one of the things we wanted to make sure is that people understand or understood what an opiate is. Now, I did find one, it was the very first one that I found, that talked a lot about how people's impressions of the term narcotics versus opiates. And of course, that doesn't, they felt more like narcotic was like a bad, illegal thing, as opposed to an opiate, which was, oh, well, that must be something that the doctor prescribes, but they didn't realize that basically they're the same thing.
You're missing Tylenol.
Yeah, right. So it's just interesting, the kinds of things that are out there, but to find what you're really looking for, it's not very easy. And again, I maintain that our library is doesn't have the best resources, and that's something that we have talked about before. I've even mentioned to the librarian, and they seem to think it's the greatest thing. But when you have this level of education, you can't just have the average. You really have to be able to provide stellar resources, or those what do you call it, those resource banks, like Ovid is one apparently, or different ones. And I'm just having difficulty.
I'm having a difficult time with the definition, because how can you override a Webster's definition?
I agree.
Versus a peer-reviewed definition. That's a very hard challenge to allow because if you ask 5 different peers to give you the definition of an opioid, you're going to have 5 different antiquated answers.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to Merriam-Webster, you're going to have one definition.
Right.
It's going to be one that's understandable.
Right. And so what I did is I looked specifically, I think it was the National Institute for Drug Abuse. Now, you would think that they would know exactly what an opiate is, right?
Right.
And I think I did something from an encyclopedia, because I couldn't find anything. And it sounds odd to say that, but yes, there are peer-reviewed articles out there about opiates and about addiction, and about, some of the things that we've talked about with the military, the pain management versus physical therapy and things of that nature, which is helpful. But just a basic definition, I couldn't find it. So I used what I used. And I don't know. I know that the assignment specifically says peer-reviewed library, whatever. So
the only reason I sent that military article to you was because it went in timeline as to what we were looking for.
I know. And I read it. It's a good article.
But it's not peer-reviewed.
So it's okay, I get why peer-reviewed is so important. So it's just interesting. It's very interesting to have, 4 or 5 days to come up with these articles for this topic that we've chosen. Obviously, we didn't research the topic to make sure that those, library-sponsored research articles were there. So this just goes to show how difficult the whole research process is. You really can't do anything in 4 or 5 days. I'm just saying.
Coming from some of the other teams, they're running into the same brick wall that we are.
Really?
That they're not finding the peer-reviewed articles. They're finding, of course, we learned from, day one, always look for the credible sources.
Yes.
They're finding credible sources, but they're not finding peer-reviewed.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It is. And like I say, the game of, and I talked about it, with Dr. Sue, with being skewed. Mm-hmm. If I truly wanted a peer review article, I could bias it to the point where I'm going to give it 5. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to 5 people that are all involved in the same exact practice that I'm in, and you're going to be, yes, that's exactly how it should be. And I'm skewing the research that way. So even though it's peer review, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I'm also for the direct, because I've read some of the peer reviews, and some were totally, it was about the Johnson & Johnson ovarian cancer research.
And that's just it. A lot of the peer reviewed are about very specific diagnoses. And then some of them are like, you know, when I look at the titles, everything except cancer, you know?
Exactly.
So because obviously, you know, opioids are used for, you know, that cancer pain. So it's just been a little challenging. So, I mean, we can't, again, we haven't had 6 months to do this, or even, you know, really a month or to do it. We've only had a few days, quite frankly. And so, you know, I'm giving it my best shot. I mean, to the point where, so I was going to send you this message today, and then I was like, you know what, I don't want to freak you out. So last night when you sent me your stuff, you know, I have this issue about the way things are worded and whatnot. So, you know, I went through, I did the edits, and I was like, okay, yeah, I like how that sounds, right? And so then I was working on my portion, and I still couldn't find exactly what I was looking at. And by this time, it's like 12 something. I was really tired. So
I saw you were online.
I thought I had saved, because I put everything on my jump drive. I told you that. I thought I had saved the documents on my jump drive. So in my mind, I saved it. I closed the computer, and I cut the light out, and I went to sleep, right? So this morning, I mean, I put my thing away and whatnot. So this, you know, I decided, well, let me look at this, because I know you had sent me an email or whatever. I was like, let me go ahead and send you what I had revised, because then I didn't want you to add to the old version, right? So when I pulled up on my jump drive, I was like, wait a minute, that's not what I put. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, wait a minute, where is it? So I'm looking at the dates. You know how you save stuff and save by date. I'm like, yesterday was the 10th. Oh my God, it's not on here. So I started freaking out. So I crafted this text message to say, hey, I revised your stuff, and I was working on mine, and I can't find it. I was like, you know what, with everything she got going on, she would not appreciate that. So I was telling you, I'm going to go home and see if maybe it's still like there. Because see, I never close all my windows down. Even on the Canvas shell. If they track my time, my Canvas shell is open for like 2 days sometimes, because I never close it.
I'm the same way right now. I'm looking at everything across, because I'm always afraid of losing somebody else's work.
There you go. So I said, oh my God, I gotta run home, and I'm praying the whole way I'm driving. I'm praying, please, Lord. I said, with everything else going on, I know you got me. I said, please just let me go plug this. Let me open this computer up, and that thing will still be there. Don't you know, I did just that. I was like, thank you. I think I saved it like 12 times to make sure, okay, is this the right one? Is this the right one? So then I looked at my phone. I said, let me just delete that message. Let me just delete that. So there's no reason for you to be all crazy about it.
You know what? You could have sent, my life has been so crazy this past week. I had my bank account hacked.
What?
Yes, from the same person. It was somebody from Facebook in Nigeria. I've had my Facebook account hacked. I think I told you my AOL that I use for professional standards, where I was teaching a GED program back in Virginia, was hacked. Okay. Literally all of that's been this week, and I had to laugh. I said, God, when it rains, it pours. But
it sure does.
As long as I can get the because it was so flooded today, I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to get the peritoneal dialysis fluid today.
Okay.
You know what? It was all good. Like you said, you kept your windows open.
Yes.
Worst case scenario, we would have had a late night tonight writing together.
I know. So we're good. So we got it. So that's why I sent you that. That's when I sent it to you, when I got the right one. So do we need to tweak anything? I know you were looking at the rubric. And see, I looked at that a little closer today, and we'll talk more about that next week. But that's actually not due until the following Sunday, just so you know.
Right.
It's not due on Friday. I was thinking it was due next Friday. That whole PowerPoint thing is not due until Sunday.
You and I tend to jump ahead of things, thinking we're always late. This week's rubric looks great for what we need to put in. I think we're on a good path. as far as week 3, because I'm comparing week 2 and week 3 rubrics together.
Okay.
I just don't like the idea of doing 5 slides and cramming.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give you some insight into that. We'll worry about that after we get this submitted for tomorrow. I got some stuff for that. So I think we're gonna be okay with that.
Okay, perfect.
I think we're gonna be okay. But what I want to make sure is, because in the assignment for tomorrow, it says to reference the rubric for week 3, PowerPoint review of literature. So to me, that doesn't really make any sense, because this is a totally separate assignment, but nonetheless, we have to make sure that we have all of those pieces, if you will. And then, so it looks like to me, when I look at the assignment again, each one of us, wait a minute, let me pull up on my phone. Because I know next week it's a separate thing.
Right.
And this week, wait a minute, it's a team thing, if I remember correctly. And I could be wrong. Okay, let's see. Teams will discuss. Okay, so we need to post our summaries to the team discussion thread. So whatever we have come up with, I guess. Now, let me make sure. So it still has to be an APA format. So I guess what we need to do is each team. See,
that was my question. Are we to keep a running copy from week 1, add week 2, and then add week 3? And then post what we have up until this point, or are we?
No, I think all we're doing is this assignment on its own, because what it says is teams will use the grading rubric criteria for week 3 PowerPoint presentation when preparing their review of literature. Students will post their summaries to the team discussion thread. Okay, teams will discuss the literature found by all members in the team discussion thread. Individual members should have their own journal articles. So the way this sounds, I think, and maybe, if you want to see clarity, it seems to me like we're doing a discussion post, but we're not doing a discussion post on the discussion post. We're doing it in that thread.
Right.
Okay.
So for the ones that you did, you would post, and the ones that I did, I would post.
Well, see, that's what I'm not sure, because it says teams will just, so are we doing one article, one paper, if you will, or is it separate?
That was my thought. I thought we were team we until we got done week 5.
Right.
But this
because it says team activity.
Right.
So I guess maybe we need to send an email and see what is. Is it Tanya posts her discussion with all of my articles, journal articles listed as references, and then Angie does the same thing, or are we putting it, all in one document with references like we would an APA format paper anyway?
Right.
Because if you look at that number 6 on there, teams will discuss the literature found by all members in the team discussion thread. So to me, just my personal thought is this should have been a paper with all of it and hit a submit button as opposed to putting it in a thread, because that just seems, again, confusing to me that it's in a thread as opposed to, like I said, even a discussion post. A discussion post meaning we did all the research, we have the references listed, and we submit that.
I agree, especially when it's worth 100 points.
I agree.
I don't like to lose any of those points.
No, we don't want to leave any money on the table, girl. Not at all.
Exactly. And I'm not a gambling girl, so.
No, me either. I'm not. Individual members should have their own journal articles, no duplicates. So, this whole thing about, if there are 10, because it had to be 5, if I remember correctly. So if there's 10 and they're not duplicated, it's confusing.
It is, because we also turned in our contract that said exactly what we were doing.
Right.
It literally laid out exactly what Tanya was doing versus what Angie was doing.
Right. So maybe we should let me shoot a quick email then. Oh, my Lord, have mercy. Okay. I'll shoot an email And then, so when you put the, so what I'm thinking, okay, we could both be wrong. So right now we got two separate documents.
Okay.
And so we can keep the two documents separate if, you know, any, and I know I need to do a little bit more on mine because I'm just not really, I'm not satisfied with where it is right now, quite frankly, because it's not enough. I mean, you know, I like to write, so I like to, my stuff is usually very verbose. The problem is being able to find these articles to support the information that I'm trying to find. And so I need for you to tell me, do you think I have met the criteria? Do you think I have met the criteria of the points that I said that I was going to research?
Now, I think we both met the criteria of saying what we were going to research.
Mm-hmm.
I worry that she's going to look at it saying that we did not hit the point on peer review.
I agree with that. And how many points is that on the rubric?
That, I think that's, let's see, two more. No, this is, it doesn't really break it down to where we're looking at peer reviewed.
On the rubric, it doesn't say that. What about the rubric for week 3, though? And then the other thing I want to bring to your attention, that it says that I don't know that I really caught until I was really scrutinizing this earlier today, is that it mentions something about, and this may be for week 3, excuse me. But again, if I don't understand why we're going back and forth, to be perfectly honest. It seems like it'd be two separate assignments as opposed to trying to, all right, Unit 3, individual review. So it mentions something on that one. I'm looking at the Unit 3 assignment because she said to look at the rubric, but the assignment itself, each student will prepare a slide presentation on their 5 research reports. So you'll do a separate one for me. Summarize what is known and identify how the proposed study will fill a gap in knowledge. And I don't know that we're necessarily doing that for this one. Let me go back and read that again. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
It makes sense.
Okay, this section will include what is known in the literature about a topic and where the gaps in knowledge are, areas that need to be researched. I just think, you know, I appreciate the fact that this is a 15-week course in 5 weeks, but I also appreciate the fact that I don't know that we can really, unless all we did was this and didn't sleep or anything else, be able to find the gaps. I don't know.
Right. So in here, I'm reading our criteria for week 3, and it does not say anything about peer review that I'm seeing. I'm seeing criteria, APA formatting, documentation, flows logically with appropriate APA format. I'm not seeing where it's saying peer review.
Okay, so I'm just going to look at the other right quick. But I know that, but that's what this whole thing is about. So I can't imagine that it wouldn't be a part of it. And if you're not seeing me, I don't know if you're seeing me or not, because I'm trying to find this rubric here. Let me see, number 2. I think it's, hurry up, load up there. Okay, let me see what the rubric says for week 2. Because it's interesting, why are we measuring week 2 by week 3? Then they should be the same then. Okay, let's see. Oh, gracious. All right, APA, that's normal. Right, thorough understanding content, accurate, reliable sources, and robust. Content is well organized. Team work together to fulfill. Content is comprehensive. Everyone work together. So I'm looking at 2. APA format, consistent supporting evidence cited in references. Required number of references was met. Meets graduate professional writing standards. That's interesting, isn't it?
It is, and I don't see anything in week 3 either.
So then I wonder, are we just to, you know, assume that because we're graduate level that they're supposed to be peer reviewed? I mean, I'm definitely playing the devil's advocate now.
There isn't a lot of assumptions in this one. I've never quite had
Well, here's what I'm thinking. Okay, let me see. Let me hold that comment right quick. So what I'm thinking, okay, so let me go back to my question. Do you think that we have, oops, I want to see you. Do you think that we have met the criteria based upon what the rubric says for this week?
I do.
Okay, because then next week, of course, we have to look at, putting the author, the study design, the design, blah, 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 blah. So even though it says refer to the rubric for the PowerPoint review of literature for week 3, you have to make up your mind which one you're going to govern us over.
Right.
We'll use the grading rubric criteria for week 3 review of literature presentation when preparing their reviews of the literature. Then why isn't that in week 2 then?
They should have just made it week 2 and week 3 the same and just required, or they should have just made some altercation as to what they wanted to see for week 2. Hold us to the same standards, but week 3 just have us add a PowerPoint.
So then on week 3 it says content criteria. 5 published peer-reviewed research reports are presented via slides and speaker's notes. So you got to make up your mind, because this rubric, we're not doing slides this week.
Right.
You know what I mean? And let me tell you also, if you look at this rubric, I want you to go to that rubric. It all says the same thing.
Okay, I have them both.
Accomplished is 100 points. Beginning is 100 points. Developing is 100 points. Exemplary is 100 points.
You're right.
Uh-huh.
Huh. That makes absolutely no sense at all.
Nope.
All I know is that you and I are going to get our 100 points.
One way or the other, right?
One way or the other, no matter how we have to do this.
So here's what I'm going to do.
You tell me which way you want to go with this.
Hold on. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do right here. Okay. So we're going to leave that right there. Okay. I know that, so I'm going to make the assumption that obviously they need to be peer reviewed. Okay. So I know that probably, I think I put either 4 or 5 on mine. Let me see. I got it right here.
You do. You have 1,
2, 3, 4, 5. But I know that the wait a minute.
National Institute.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I had one that was an encyclopedia, but there it is, Korsmeyer and Kranzler. So that's Encyclopedia of Drugs, Alcohol, and Addictive Behavior. So those 2 may not be peer reviewed, but I was not able to find what I found in those anywhere.
Right. So you can't hold yourself responsible for that.
Well, we got it. Well, so
we still have to cite our sources. We might just have to come up with
now we can have more than 5 sources.
Exactly.
We can have more than 5 each. And we can reference as many as we need to. So I'm going to say you're probably right. So we could have 7 if we wanted to.
Exactly.
But the fact of the matter is, if we put that in our report, or if we put it in our PowerPoint next week, and it doesn't, so for example, if I look at some of the things that I have cited, I know at least one of those things is from the encyclopedia. Okay, so now is that not going to be counted? Because I just don't think I've written enough. I'm gonna have to go. And when I was looking at what are typical uses for opioids and why are they sought by prescribers, it's pretty much the same according to the American Academy of Pain Medicine and the American Pain Society, because it's essential to managing moderate to severe chronic pain to use opioid analgesics. And I haven't found any place else that says that. Now, you would think that it would say that, and I can't, I can read all of these reports about cancer, opioid and cancer and blase, blase, but that's not what our PICO is.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, when they have cancer, all they give them is Roxanol and their comfort pack. So I have to laugh. Let's see, I have 1, 2. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to maybe beef up these references a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then, now how are we gonna turn this in?
Well, that's what we need to find
Right.
out. So I'll shoot her an email here when we're done, and I'll ask her, how is this is it supposed to be one paper, if you will, that we both have put together so that it reads like a paper should read? Or do you just want, my pieces with my references and then your pieces separately with your references? Then it's going to be kind of disjointed. So that kind of doesn't make any sense to me.
Exactly, because we've chosen the things that we were better at. So if you read yours, it's gonna kind of jump around.
Yeah.
And it's not going to make much sense.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking. So, okay. Well,
I kind of hoping she would have gotten back to me by now, but she hasn't.
Okay. What did you ask her?
I just asked her what was expected from. I lost you, so now let me get you back on here. I asked her what was expected from this assignment and which direction we were going to look at. And I asked her to look at my work to see if she thought there was another avenue I could go in or if that was okay. And I haven't heard anything. So I think cutting it down to the wire,
we got 24 hours. What are you talking about? We're not cutting it down. It's not 8:00 on Friday night. It's 8:00 on Thursday night.
I know, to me though, I'm like,
I know.
This is, to me, might as well be the last minute. But yeah, I think we'll give her a chance to answer that, and then tomorrow.
But didn't you ask her that yesterday?
I did.
That's unusual.
Yes, it was sent out yesterday. As a matter of fact, let me close this down for a minute. I'll tell you exactly when it was. Let's see. Yes, that was done yesterday at 6:44.
That's very unusual.
And then, let's see. Hold on, I did get something. No, she did ask me about the appendix. Answer me about the appendix assignment. Too. I said, "Are you basically just asking me to tear down my original appendix assignment?" Let me look through and make sure I'm not missing anything. She's normally really good about
responding back right quick.
Exactly.
I hope everything's okay.
Me too. Because she asked me about my daughter. Zoom meeting, week 1, peer review. No, that's it. So I guess it's whatever. If we don't hear anything back from her, I can reach back. If you've already reached out to her, I won't bombard her email. But
no, I haven't yet, but I'll just send it and ask her what, how should it be submitted, individually, or again, we know that it's going to go in that team thread thing, whatever, discussion thread, but how, can we just upload should it just be one submission because we're putting the thoughts together? And see, that's even weird too. Let me tell you why I say that. Because if you think about the PowerPoint, right? Yeah, because if we're doing 2 separate PowerPoints, this whole thing's not going to make any daggone sense.
Exactly. And especially having to upload this thread of our conversation that we're having now, pretty much you can get the gist of our whole paper by listening to us talk back and forth.
But I'm just saying, to put together a PowerPoint on my 5 slides is not going to say much, and yours is not going to say much, but when you put it together, it makes sense if we're talking about this is what our research topic is.
Exactly. I
So
agree.
I don't understand why it's 2 separate things.
And I'm not quite sure what objective we're meeting by doing this.
Well, I agree with that too. So, all right. Well,
at least we're on the same page. Okay.
all right. So I know I got a little bit more to do. I'm going to try and find as much as I can because my pieces were to define what opioids were, to define what opioids were, to define or state what the typical uses for opioids were, and why do prescribers seek those out. So those were
Right.
the 3 things, and users or the end user doesn't really seek those out necessarily because we're not talking about addiction here. They don't they just seek pain control or
Exactly.
pain management. So they're not necessarily in our situation here. They're not seeking out the opioids specifically. They're just seeking pain management.
Correct. And what I did was pain management component, and then quality measures, because otherwise we have to have something to do an alternative hypothesis.
Right.
And then basically kept it with ortho. Otherwise we would be all over the place.
Yeah, because there's so many, you got cancer, you got this. I mean, it seems like every diagnosis, they go to the opioid for, obviously it's a good pain management tool, but then it can become mismanaged, and obviously that's what the issue is.
Exactly. So if you find anything before I do, let me know. If I find out anything before you do, I'll let you know.
Okay, that sounds good.
And then we'll mash it together and figure out what to do.
What's your schedule tomorrow?
Tomorrow I will be out of the house until 12:30. I leave here at 8 and I'll be back at 12:30.
Okay.
And then basically it's just packing for Saturday.
Okay.
So I'll be here and reachable all day long.
Okay. So I would like to try to get this done sooner than later tomorrow, only because you got a plane to catch on Saturday morning. And if you want to, I just want to make sure that we're feeling good. And I had scheduled, we're doing a date night, kind of, not really. It is and it's not. So we have these really good friends that our families, once a month, we're going to do the alphabet once a month. We go to a restaurant, starting with the letter, A through Z. So we were supposed to go a couple weeks ago, but her husband had to go out of town to see his mom in Florida. She's elder. So we're doing it. We had set to do tomorrow night, and we've been rescheduling it all over the place. I'm like, you know what? We need to stick with that. So I would like not to have to rush home, which I know I will anyway, because it'll definitely be submitted before 11:59. But I'd like to have the majority of it done before I go to dinner for 7 o'clock.
Therapist Tanya, here you come.
Then Jamie has he has homecoming dance on Saturday because he's a freshman in high school. So that's pretty important. So he got a haircut tomorrow evening and, all that. So we got to get him all ready for that,
All the pictures and
the
moments you'll never want to miss. Ever. Ever. Get some sleep. You're looking tired tonight.
I know I am tired.
You look tired tonight, and just let me know what direction we're going in to get this going.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I know, like I said, I feel like I got to find a little bit more because I'm really not happy with it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of like put it together just like in one. Now I'm not good with the AP. I'm great with APA format. I screwed up on the last assignment because I didn't put a running head on the paper, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" Oh yeah, whatever. I lost 2 points for that, so I wasn't really happy about that.
It's okay. We're gonna get through this. I think it should be in one paper format too, just to kind of get all of the points across.
Yeah,
it'll make sense.
That's what I think. So. I'll reach out. I'll let you know what the response is. If you get a response first, you let me know, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. And
all right.
Make sure you record tonight. Have you recorded already? Do you want me to end the record?
Yeah, I'm going to end it right now, and then I'll process it and upload it. Give the girls a hug for me.
Thank
And
you.
you're absolutely welcome. And I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for your prayers.
All right, you're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, bye.